You can't hear me. You can't hear me, right? Well, I said what I said was hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Epic Understanding. I am your host, Coach Love, and I have my trusty partner here, Steve. JJ, how you doing, Steve?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty awesome. What I'm doing better now that they can hear me, right? Isn't that
I'm
nice?
sure. I'm sure they're doing much better now that they can hear you.
So, we
I mean,
did
the
a
whole reason why we come here is because of you, right?
Oh, I thought it was just because I had such awesome subject matter. That's what I was thinking.
Well, that too, I'm sure.
Okay, I'll take it. I'll take it. I'll take what I can get. Um, but I think we're at an amazing point with this situation with Chris Rock and um, Will Smith. It's really been talked about and beat up, right? But I don't think that we've done a good job extracting the value of it. Like the gossip part has been talked about to death. Right? But have
Right.
we? Yes, but when I look at this situation, I see something where we can really have an opportunity to examine something that we all experience at the same time. And it's not war, it's not somebody dying. It's really the kind of stuff that happens to us every day. Now, nobody generally gets hit every day, right? But
Right.
right, but we do get embarrassed by other people, right?
Yeah.
People do offend us. People don't take our perspective into um, account, and we have to apologize. We have to forgive. We have to examine ourselves when we eh, um, see something, see something, say something, kind of thing. And do we have bystander apathy? Are our boundaries appropriate? So I definitely want to start to cover that. We might cover some juicy part to like an
Yeah.
important thing for me. I don't know how much I'll be able to do this. Considering your hairstyle, um, I want to talk about black hair a little bit. I have my opinion, right? Because I am a black girl with hair, and it, or
I have no opinion on black women's hair.
you know what? That's very interesting, but so many people do.
Yeah.
I think that's the deal. That's what? I think that's maybe the part that I can cover with you. So many people have so many opinions about black girls' hair.
I don't get what the freaking fascination is with it. It's hair, for crying out loud. Like, my beard has a different sensation than my hair does, but
Hmm.
who
Hmm.
cares? It just seems like a weird trivial thing, like from my perspective to think about, but I understand the historical implications that
Well,
racialized black women have had to face with it. And because for a long time, like, hair was, they destroyed their scalps and their hair in order to
yeah.
look beautiful, because they were trying to match the white expectation of beauty, and they used products that just absolutely just destroyed them. So
a-
yeah.
100%. And so you can't get into the I don't know, the essence of having black girl hair or black hair, but you can it sounds like you have an idea about the journey. Before I get too far into this, I want to welcome our audience. Welcome everybody. I have a special guest, Honest and Frank. Hi, Honest and Frank. Long time no see. Good to see you. Bradford, I love that you are here. And maybe if you feel like it, you can jump in if you have a thought, particularly when we start going down the avenue of apology. I'd love to hear your feedback. And of course, everyone else, welcome Facebook, LinkedIn, and my small groups. Just welcome everybody. Um, so I'll save the details of it regarding black hair for uh, when I get some greater input. But I like that. I love that you have the psychology behind it. It's very nice. Waving at you, Blue. Waving at you, Blue. So what do you think the ingredients for a good apology is, or are, I should say? What are they?
So this is something that I had to be taught because I was never taught it. And there's three main primary components to an apology.
Okay.
One is an acknowledgement of the harm caused.
Mm-hmm.
Two is the identification of the exact thing that caused it.
Mm-hmm.
And what you are going to do moving on in the future to keep from allowing that to happen again. So if we take the instance of, like, let's say I did something rude. I mean, I just had to do this, like, just literally the other day. I had to apologize. It was, I acknowledged that, this action that I did, caused harm. I want you to know that that is never going to happen. And I will do everything that I can in my power to make sure that that never happens again. And that is it. You don't tell them about how bad of a day you were having. You don't tell them how, all these other things were going on in your world and in your life, because they don't care. Nobody cares about what's going on in your life, because what it sounds like to everybody else is that you're excusing your behavior with bad things that happened in your life that have unrelated consequences to you personally as a human being.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't care that you had a bad day at work. That doesn't give you the right to give me to hurt me.
Right.
Right.
Right. Right.
Leave your personal business out of it. It doesn't matter, because nobody cares.
Mm-hmm.
The apology should be strictly about your crappy behavior,
Mm-hmm.
acknowledging your crappy behavior and how it may have done harm, and how to move on from there in good faith. That's it. That's all that needs to be a part of apology, period. Nothing else matters other than that.
So, is there a time for that other stuff to come in? Is there a time for that other stuff to come
When the person who is being apologized to acknowledges that or brings it up. But it's not you as the apologizer. It's not your place to do it.
in?
Your
Mm-hmm.
place is to repair the rupture. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the person who you're apologizing to who could say, okay, it's not a big deal. Thank you for the apology. Let's talk about, what it seems like you've not been, your regular person. Like, what's going on in your life? Because I think this had something to do with why you did this thing to me.
Mm-hmm.
Are you okay with talking about that? Because if you don't do that, if you're the apologizer and you bring that up, again, it makes it look like you're excusing your bad behavior because of external consequences. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like saying I'm sorry, but not really.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't my fault that I said that horribly rude thing to you. You know what I mean? It's okay. So take the B word on on the other show, right?
Mm-hmm.
I said the B word. I didn't screw around. I didn't say anything else. I just said, you know what? I apologize. I will make every endeavor to never say that again on your show.
Mm-hmm.
And that was it. I didn't make up any excuses. I didn't beat around the bush. I didn't do any of that. I just made sure that you understood that I was not ever going to do that on your show ever again. You know what I mean? And you could ask me, like, why do you have such a, you could be like, thank you for the apology, but let's talk about why you feel so freely to use that word. And we could talk about it, but I'm not going to bring that up. That's the right of the apologizee to be able to do that, because they don't have to care.
So would that have been a good step for me to take?
No, not necessarily in that situation, because it's kind of it's a minor infraction, so to speak, in the sense that it's not like I was going after you. I was using it as a quote, as an example.
Mm-hmm.
But let's say that, we were talking about something and I offended you in some other way because I was being aggressive, like I was hyperly aggressive. I don't know why people care so much about freaking hair, blah, 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 blah. Right. And then you could be like, hey, there's something underlying all of that. I appreciate the apology. You apologize correctly, but what's going on there? Like, why, if I can ask, why is that such a sore subject for you? And if possible, can we explore that together? That's perfectly fine.
Okay. I get that. Let me expand the dynamics. what if it's a bigger situation? Does that make a difference? Because I think that we have that personal kind of thing, and I would say that would be the kind of thing that happened with the B word, right? But I think there's expanded situations like in the workplace, and
Mhm.
then even a public situation.
Right. Yeah, there is an additional aspect to it for sure. And what that is I will take personal responsibility for my actions and the consequences as such.
Hmm. And then,
Meaning I will take the punishment that you give me. I won't complain. I acknowledge that my actions require a punishment of some sort, and I will be a part of moving forward with this. The reason why I say that is because, like a minor apology, like the B word the other day, I don't think that required any kind of
mhm.
punishment. You know what I mean? It was
No,
it's like, yeah, but let's say that it was much worse than that, and I ended up offending all of your viewership
oh yeah.
doing something right, and I very might well have.
Hmm.
I could say, and you brought it to me, and you're like, hey, I didn't appreciate that you did this. You offended me. You offended my viewership. Yada yada yada. And I would do the standard apology. I acknowledge how that may have caused harm. This is what I did. You have my word that this will never happen again. But I also want to add in, I take personal responsibility, 100% personal responsibility for this, and whatever consequences that you deem appropriate for this, I'm perfectly on board with. Understanding that there needs to be some kind of restorative process here to move forward, to either, even if that doesn't include me, I still need to put myself available to repair the harm that I've done.
So I like that part. Make yourself available to repair the harm. In
Mhm.
my thought, if I embarrass you, like at a board meeting, part of the restorative process would be lifting you up in that same environment. Um, when it came to Will Smith, one of my irritants with him is that he he didn't give a visual of his apology like on camera. His
Mhm.
very bad actions were on camera. His submission and admission of what he done, what those bad actions were, should have been on camera.
Right.
I don't know, but maybe the Academy would have given him not 10 years. I mean, 10 years is a long time,
Well, I
right?
mean, it was physical assault. There's no excuse for it, but
Right.
I
No, I'm
mean,
not saying it's an excuse, but I think how he was so clumsy with his apology, I think
yeah.
played into the feeling that people had, because it was like, you kind of need to learn your lesson and you're not doing it. So I'm going to lean towards what's maximum for you.
Well, people have to learn to trust Will again.
Uh-huh,
Like, if
uh-huh,
you think about it, like what Will did was he broke the trust of every single person who believed that he was better than that kind of a person that would assault another human being.
uh-huh,
Right.
uh-huh.
So the apology doesn't necessarily extend to Chris. It extends to it expands out to it. Wow, words. It expands out into the greater part of society, because we, like, Will Smith is almost like a member of all of our families. Like, he's been
Uh-huh.
in everybody's house.
Yes.
There's some people I've known for years who don't know where I live, but Will Smith has been in my damn house. You know what I
Okay.
mean? You owe me an
Yeah.
apology too, you jerk. And so I think that the apology that he did issue, it was a bullshit apology. It was a keyboard apology. It was like, I could have wrote that up and said from Will Smith, and it would have meant about the exact same thing. Because
Uh-huh,
Will, I don't think, was apologizing because he felt like he needed to. It was a bullshit apology.
uh-huh.
Absolutely.
And I think the order in which you give the apology as well,
Yeah.
because on the night,
Oh,
on the
coach, can
yes,
I take something back to what you said?
yes, go ahead.
I really like how you made the comment that if you're going to apologize, I want to help lift you up. Can you explain that a little bit more? Because I love that idea, because apologizing, you're embarrassed for so many reasons. You already feel small. You already feel like you don't want to be there. You already feel like, you've ruined relationships. But the thing I find with what you said was that you are showing me that my relationship isn't ruined. What we've done is actually create a better environment to start building trust together. You've been the example, you're being the example that I should follow. Right. So there's this old saying, I don't set the example, I am the example.
Yes.
And people might hear that and think, well, that's the same thing. No, it's not. No, it's not. One is I'm telling you how to behave. The other one is I'm showing you how I expect people around me to behave. So I really like the idea of what you said there, which was, help uplift those people, because they're already down. If they have to apologize, they're already really, really down. But you're taking another component of an apologetic scenario, and you're actually making it something that is like, if someone has to look forward to apologizing, I can't think of a better way of doing that. So what do you mean by lifting them up?
I mean that it's a partnership. I mean, bring everyone along with you. You, particularly in a public situation, right? So if we went down with you with the slap, we all fell with Will. There were people that were just so shocked, and then there was there was heart breaking with him. Of course, Chris was just stunned and physically assaulted. So all of us were connected in this moment. Okay, let us all go together in a brand new moment in restoration. Okay, so
I like that.
yeah, that is what I'm saying. And that is why the order matters. Um, it would have been great to hear, Chris, I haven't had a chance to personally apologize to you yet because we're in this scenario. We're filming live, but I hurt you live. And so you are the first person I want to apologize for. I'm saying this now here on stage, but you better believe I'm coming to you personally and submitting my heart to you because I shouldn't have done that to you. I'm publicly apologizing to the Academy and my fellow nominees because I ruined this moment for us together.
Yeah.
This may be the first words I'm saying about this, but it won't be the last. You can expect more from me because I want to examine my behavior and see how we can all learn together. Now, that's something I would have loved to hear him say, right?
Yeah.
Take us with you. And the reason why I say that he should have apologized immediately to Chris Rock on stage is because he did it in that great grandstanding moment. I'm extending the idea that maybe he wouldn't have gotten the chance to create humility and apologize to Chris in that scenario because of it was live and there's so much going on. Chris Rock is here and he might be there, right? But maybe he would have. I just don't know, but I just wanted to make room for that. That said, I think in our everyday lives that we might be at work and something really bad happens. And I've seen, have you seen people do stuff at like in a boardroom or in a meeting? And it's really, really hard. They create a hard situation and they embarrass somebody. Maybe it's a smart aleck remark or a sniper-like comment that is targeted, and that's because maybe they are feeling threatened. I think they should be required to address it in the
Yeah.
same scenario in which they created it.
I don't know. I've never seen the inside of a boardroom.
Oh, but you've seen the inside of a meeting.
Yeah,
Let
yeah.
Bradford says this, or how about bring them on the red table and have them talk through the apology. It was a public rupture, a public repair seems appropriate. So we're going down the same avenue. I like the idea of the red table talk. I don't necessarily like the idea of uh, his family benefiting from the you know.
Yeah, I don't think Bradford meant it that way, but I like the idea of that, and that's what I was gonna say after you finished, was that I think the apology needs to be somewhere in the same vein as the act itself that
Mhm,
caused it. So
mhm,
what Will did is he went on TV, slapped someone, assaulted someone, made a really vague, lame apology to people on publicly, but then the apology was days after the fact, and it was very he hid behind a little literal textual wall,
mhm.
behind a keyboard, and it was just and that's the weirdest thing too, is like that's such an odd behavior from Will Smith. It's just the whole thing is just reeks of more than what we know. You know what
Mhm.
I mean? It's just weird. Just weird.
Well, it's definitely weird. We're not going to go too far down this lane, but
Yeah.
I think I wonder about alcohol abuse or midlife crisis or something along those lines. I think that maybe we'll hear more about this. Maybe he'll have an interview with Oprah. I don't or Gail. Wait a minute. Maybe she can go. Will, like she did with Robert or R. Kelly. I'll never that's in my ear still. Robert. That's definitely in my ear. So going back to what Brad said, I do like the idea of a platform for it. Um, and honestly, I would like to see them do it together. If he properly restores Chris Rock, I would like to see them um, on The View, on The Talk, on the Tonight Show, on the Jimmy Kimmel Show, and uh, what's that other show? I don't know. All do your tour so you saturate the. I can't hear you. What happened? Something's going on with your sound. But
There we
what?
go.
Okay, great. Um, I would like him to saturate the audience as much as he possibly can with his apology. So,
I was just thinking that it would be nice if the two of them could actually do whatever kind of tour you're talking about and show us how you got from point A to point B during that whole thing. Like, what was behind the scenes that was working there? Because you could see that Jada was like, "Oh no, not this again."
mhm,
You know what I mean? And
mhm.
like, take us through this journey of both the experience and the healing process that Will and Chris are going to go through to try and fix those things. That would be fascinating if they actually had the balls to do that. But yeah,
I'm here for that. I'm here. I'm ready for it because I think we need it. I think we need it not because um, of that situation per se. I think we need to learn how to heal. We are learning so much about how to hurt one another. There's so many examples about how to hurt one another, but so few examples of restoration. And we are
yeah,
provided, yeah, we are provided with an opportunity to view restoration here, and I'm so ready to see it. But we need Chris Rock for that. We definitely need Chris
Yeah.
Rock for that. I want to talk about him and what he's done. But before I go too far, let's read what Old Blue has to say. Apologies should be private if the offense was private. If the offense was public, public apologies can be helpful. However, public apologies run the risk of being humiliating. Yeah, they do. I would have to say that's also a consequence of publicly humiliating someone else. I
You
think
know,
that's
I want to agree with what Blue is saying there. However, with a caveat, because we can always say, well, what if, what if, what if, what if? That's perfectly fine. But I think Blue brings up a good point, is that sometimes something that can happen in public or happen in private, but will extend out from the private to the public realm. You know what I mean? So like if something happens privately in small communities, it can have a really large effect. And if it does transform into that, I think then you need to have a discussion about the public apology being necessary. So I think that's the only thing I would really kind of caveat. It's not even like I'm telling you that Blue's wrong. I think I would just add that caveat onto that.
We have to well, let me ask you this. How important is it for the person who was the offender not to experience any embarrassment? Is some embarrassment okay for that person?
I think the embarrassment is a consequence of your actions. So tough shit. If you're embarrassed, that's not my problem. You're the one that did the action. You're the one that did the harm, and you get the consequences that go with it. The apology is to repair the harm between you and the person that you harmed. But the embarrassment is oftentimes part of, because the embarrassment is usually only going to go along with the public apology. Whereas the personal, the private apology it's not going to last really long. You know what I mean? But the embarrassment is like, you should be embarrassed. You should be embarrassed. Like it was probably something that deserved the embarrassment. So to say that embarrassment shouldn't be a part of it
I don't disagree. I think the embarrassment and working through that is honestly the work required that will keep you from doing it again.
Yeah. Well, you've heard that saying is like, don't write a check your ass can't cash. Well,
Yes, I've heard it.
that's what's happening is your action was the check, and now your ass is going to have to pay the price for it. And that price is in the form of maybe it's embarrassment, or maybe it's public ridicule, or maybe it's like a ban from the Oscars. I don't know, but one way or another, your ass is going to be paying that check. I think it's a necessary, it's a mandatory aspect of how we repair ruptures within society. And it has to be there has to be some kind of a toll paid for violating the sanctity of society's rules. I mean, that's like a major part of morals and ethics, right? It's like we have to have a way that we treat each other and the way that we treat each other within society. Those two things, because those are two separate things. Like how we treat you, like each other in a private conversation, excuse me, is going to be much different than how I treat you publicly. Right. So I might fire back at you and we could have like a real drop down fight privately, but that behavior is not going to go out here. Right. I'm not going to do the same thing out here. I'm going to show you respect, be kind, show my manners, but those are two different ways that we exist within the world, is both interpersonally and socially. So, it follows that, the same thing would be true in those cases.
So do I have a responsibility, if I'm Chris Rock, do I have a responsibility to hold you up in any way? No. Okay, good. I mean, I agree. I agree with you that on there, but that was brought to my attention. So that is why I'm asking that question. As a matter of fact, someone suggested that that should be done. And
I think it's great. I love it. But as a requirement, no.
Let's think about Chris Rock's behavior. Does he owe an apology at all in this scenario?
Sure.
Okay. What did he have to do?
Well, I think he did apologize. He apologized for an insensitive comment made at Jada's expense. His apology was really weird. Like this feels really rapist apologetic. Like I hurt
apologetic.
Right. Well, you know what I'm talking about. It's like the person, like it's victim blaming, right? And it was really creepy how it was done, where Chris was the victim, but yet he's apologizing, and the apology was way longer than it needed to be for what he was apologizing for. And then he was apologizing for being a comic in that sense, and it's just ew. It was just it was a gross apology that he didn't need to do. But all he had to say is like, look, I understand that now that this is a sensitive topic for Jada, and I apologize for making the joke at her expense on live TV. Sorry. Just leave it really simple. But the whole apology was super creepy. It was super creepy. Like, why is the victim here having to apologize for something?
Do you think
it was gross?
Do you think maybe it was that because he honestly knew better?
It's possible. It's absolutely possible. Sure. I just found the whole thing really creepy I don't like it's one, like, honestly, he's a comedian. There are almost no boundaries to comedy. And what Chris Rock said was funny. Huh?
I'm glad you're taking it here, because that is the next part that we're going to go down that part. You say there is no boundaries to comedy.
Yeah, there's almost no boundaries to comedy. There are a few, and I agree with them, but for the most part, there's no boundaries to comedy, almost no boundaries to comedy. And it's like, Jada, you're a public figure. You've made your alopecia public. You've joked about it yourself, but for some reason, Chris Rock making a joke is the thing that is offensive. It's like, come on, like the best thing you could have done was show people who suffer with alopecia how to handle situations like that. And she could have been like, haha, that was a funny joke, Chris. Good job. You know what I mean? But she didn't. She acted really, what's the word for it?
Offended.
Well, offended, but disproportionately offended to the joke. It's like, look, woman, you look amazing with a shaved head. Like, some people don't have a head that should be shaved ever. And she's got a great head to be shaved. She has a beautiful shaped head.
I'm going to say that unless she told Will to go beat him up, I don't find her actions offensive. Because if you say something that I find egregious, I have, even though me personally, I probably won't, but if I have the right to go.
Well, she could have done the Nancy Pelosi clap.
I mean, she certainly could have, but I think she has the right to go, just like to be exhausted with his, humor. I think she has the right to do that. But if she in any way, and I can't help saying this because it's burning my butt. Damn it, it's burning my butt.
Just say it.
If she in any way encouraged her man to go up on that stage, when I tell you I'm pissed at her, I'm pissed. I really want to know that. If I had a burning question throughout all of this scenario, that's what I want to know.
Yeah.
What did you do?
Like, I want to know, did you grab for Will as he's running up there?
Yes.
Or did you just sit here like, go kick his ass?
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
All of that.
Yeah, because if she did that, she should be banned as well.
Yes. Listen, any and all of that, I'm here for it. That is, if on the apology tour, we or not apology or the what about
The
restoration
Apology Tour.
yeah
Apology Tour 2022.
yes yes so
Coming to a city near you. Will Smith and Chris Rock.
we're featuring Jada Pinkett Smith. I'm here for it. Red table included. How about that?
Right, there you go. We'll make a show out of it. It'll be like the new WWE, only with celebrities and they're just apologizing.
Exactly. And wouldn't you like to see that?
Yeah.
Yes. I would love to see some of our celebrities who've had major beef. Oh, okay. You may not know these people, but do you know who Monique is?
Of course I know who Monique is.
Oh, and there's what's the director's name that she was fighting with? I can't think of it. But she was fighting with a director, was really huge. He made
Yeah.
a movie called
Who was
Precious.
that?
But anyway, they made up and they were famous. They've been fighting for 10 years. Lee Daniels.
Lee Daniels, that's right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I would love to see how their restoration process went. Honestly, look, if I was a producer and if I was a famous producer, this is what I would be doing with my time right now. I would be gathering people who had public beefs, and taking them around the U.S. and making apology tours so that we can start to understand how to restore relationships in one another. Because where is that? Where is that highlighted in society?
Well, and Monique really suffered from that whole thing. Like she got basically blackballed from Hollywood for quite a while because of her attitude towards Lee Daniels and a bunch of other things too. But she was like, she's not the kind of woman that's going to keep quiet. She's like, no, these guys are assholes. You know what I mean? This is some bullshit, and we're not going to allow that to continue. I mean, she's very vocal about things that she feels are a violation of what is morally and ethically okay, which you should be, even more so as a celebrity. And so I never got into the whole situation, but I do understand and know a few details about it. But yeah, she really did suffer. Her work suffered. She didn't collect too many paychecks during that time. And that was at the height of her popularity almost, where she was really like, people were begging her to be on in their movies and in their shows, because she's an incredibly talented actress. Like, broad range of emotion, strength, power, softness, like she has everything.
And the deal with Monique is that there's not another one of her, so to speak.
Right.
Like, you can't really duplicate her. You can get similar, but you can't really duplicate her.
Well, isn't that the cool thing about her name? Is it's like a kind of a cross between Monique and unique?
Yes.
Yeah.
When I want to bring this up, Blue does not agree. And I definitely get your point. Will should be responsible for his own actions. I think what Steve and I are getting at is, what are Jada's actions, and her actions have been hidden from us. Like, he and I are not the only people asking this question. What did Jada do? What was Jada's response?
If she incited violence, she's just as much at fault.
There's a problem there. There's a problem.
Yeah, I definitely disagree with Blue on that one, because if she was inciting violence on a husband who's already at a, how would you say that, a very sensitive, emotional position, she didn't have to push him very hard to make him go up there and do something. So every little step that she took, Larry, my man.
Oh, hi. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine, thanks. Fine.
Welcome. This is your first time on the show.
Yes. I mean, been in the chat leaving messages, but this is the first time literally on the panel.
Yes, this is the first time we have a visual of you. So welcome, welcome, welcome. You know, let's give you a round of applause.
And damn, he is handsome.
Is it?
Steve,
I'm a married man, Larry. I'm a married man. I'm just showing appreciation for my fellow handsome man. Don't worry.
Look, well, you know, we'll give him a round of applause for his looks, okay, as well. But I'm just happy that you're here. That's in order to add your thoughts. So you've been hanging out in the chat. What are your thoughts?
I don't think there are any rules on what you can or can't say as a comedian, and there are no rules on how you should respond to what that comedian says. That's the way I see it. The comedian has the freedom to say whatever he wants, and people have the freedom to respond however they want to. So the way Jada responded, she had every freedom to respond like that. She didn't find it funny at that particular time, at that particular moment. So she didn't like it. And maybe there's a whole bunch of things going on behind the scenes that we don't know about that has led to Will Smith going, you know what, I've had enough. Because he's lost a lot because of that. I think he's been kicked out of the Academy Award membership or something like that.
Oscar, the Academy,
But he still has his award. They haven't taken that away from him. So I think that he has the freedom to respond like that, and he'll have to deal with the repercussions. And Chris Rock has the freedom to say what he wants, and he has to deal with the repercussions. I don't believe that comedians are an extinct group of people that need protection or something. They have the freedom to say whatever they want, and they deal with the repercussions. Chris Rock is a very wealthy man. I'm sure he'll get over it. He's not going to be poor anytime soon. So I don't see why anyone should bring out the violin and start playing it for Chris Rock. So that's the way I see it.
Something that needs to be said though is that Will resigned before the Academy banned him. So it's kind of like, why? What was the point of banning him? Like he's already gone. Like that's a punishment enough. It's like, okay,
but that's like breaking
your application will not be resubmitted.
I'm going to break up with you. I'm going to break up with you before you break up with me.
He's like he jumped before he got pushed. Basically.
Exactly. Exactly. And so,
Larry, I don't think we were saying that Jada needed to behave any specific way. But what we were saying is that, like, the best result would have been her to laugh it off and continue on, right? Because she's showing an example of how to deal with people who are coming at you and not giving them satisfaction of hurting you. Like, don't let them know that they.
I agree.
Yeah, that's all we were saying.
She could have done one of those classic Hollywood laughter things. She could have. But her feelings got in the way. It really hit home. It hit home at that particular moment. She's looking her best. Her husband, her man's probably going to get an award. She's sitting right at the front. Millions of people are looking. She's got this expensive dress. She's looking classy. She's behaving classy. And then Chris Rock comes up and he does that. And she's like, oh, Lord, not now. Of all the times, it's like, oh, does it have to be now? And Will actually did what you were saying. He was laughing if you watch the footage. He was giggling because Will Smith does that. I don't know whether he actually found it funny, but I was watching a piece of footage with him and Martin Lawrence, and it was a show where they were supposed to do impressions, and then Martin Lawrence was given a card to do an impression of Will Smith, but Will Smith didn't know it. So he then started making fun of Will Smith, and Will started laughing. I don't know if Will found it funny, but Will's kind of trained himself to laugh like that. But Jada wasn't having it. And then he must have looked at Jada, saw she was upset, then felt he had to step up and do what he did. And I'm like, fair play to him. You have the freedom to do what you do and you deal with the repercussions. Both of them are very wealthy men and they're going to, I think they will live in the high life regardless of this. Oh yeah, there was a piece of footage I saw which never got shown publicly. It was at the Oscars where Will Smith actually goes up to Chris Rock afterwards and they sort of like hug and shake. I saw it on TikTok. I was looking at all these things and they actually like hugged and stuff. It was at the Oscars. It was actually in there, but it wasn't shown publicly. but it was obviously something that was taking place on the stage, and they actually hugged and shook hands and stuff, but that never got shown publicly. So
that's lovely, and I wish that had been popularized. That would have been wonderful.
Yeah, but I haven't seen that footage yet on YouTube. I haven't been looking for it on YouTube. I was just scrolling through TikTok, and then I came across it, and then I was like, oh, okay. Because the person was saying, why didn't they show this publicly? And you could see it was like a camera from above that was looking down at both of them, and off the stage they were like hugging and shaking hands. So
I think I know the one you're talking about, but that one I saw that like the day of or the day after. And that TikTok said it was Will Smith and Denzel Washington.
No, the one I saw was Chris Rock.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying is you're getting a different story than I'm getting.
Yeah. Maybe there was another one with him and Denzel Washington, because Denzel Washington was there as well. So maybe there is one with Denzel, but the one I saw was clearly, you can't miss Chris Rock. He's a slim, skinny looking guy. So
yeah.
You know, it was Chris Rock. He was shaking hands with. Yeah, but I don't know.
Let's talk about the behavior afterwards. It appears that Chris Rock had a very low profile afterwards, whereas Will Smith was partying all night long. Did that make a difference?
No. To me, the whole Hollywood masquerade, it works well. I mean, Will Smith was the hero. He got the award, you know, so it was his time to shine. But Chris Rock is always going to shine. It's not like Chris Rock has been, as they say, cancelled. He hasn't been cancelled. He's still there. He's still going to make money. I don't know. Maybe I'm just too harsh, because these guys are both filthy rich. It's hard to feel sorry for either one of them. They're still going to be making loads of money. The publicity is great for both of them. So I don't know.
And so Steve and I have gone back and forth on this particular idea. It's not a point of feeling sorry for you, but the reality is you do get hurt at a human level. Otherwise, rich people would not commit suicide. One of the things that goes through my mind is like Robin Williams. I don't know why this one really bothers me so much, but he committed suicide. What is the other gentleman who committed suicide?
Tony Scott, the director of the brother of Ridley Scott. Apparently, he was on the Golden Gate Bridge, got out of his car, and then jumped off the bridge. Because some people said maybe he discovered he had like brain cancer or a brain tumor that was inoperable or something.
Okay. And then what about the gentleman who had a food show, and all he did, he literally traveled around and
Anthony
ate.
Bourdain.
Yes. I mean, I traveled.
Chester Bennington from Lincoln Park.
I mean, that is living the life. But so for me, I think it's important that we acknowledge as a society that money is not going to heal your wounds. Popularity is not going to heal your wounds, and you get hurt at a human level. Yeah.
I don't know. I've never had $1 million. I don't know. If I had $1 million, I'd be really happy, Coach Love. I'd be really happy if I had $1 million.
Well, it can bring you some comfort, but it doesn't.
I'll buy all new friends.
Oh God, they won't be worth anything. All the friends you buy with your money won't be worth a dime.
I don't need them to be worth anything, just to be there as an entourage when I'm turning up.
Oh my God, the ego. What a do.
And I'll pay for some security guards, like 6'7"
you know what?
guys walking. I'll be happy. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, the ego's on this. I don't know what I'm going to say.
Just enjoy it. I mean, it's the first time you're going to experience having all that money. Take advantage of it. Do all the trappings. Be like Mariah Carey. Have someone in front of you throwing petals on the ground whilst you walk, and and what is it she has? She has someone who carries lighting, so that when she sits down for interview, they can get her good side or something like that.
Oh my goodness.
just enjoy. But I understand, seriously, I understand what you mean in that it's all superficial, it's all materialistic. Deep down, once you put all that stuff aside, you're on your own and you feel like you're on your own and you don't have anyone to talk to, which is why I guess the good old fashioned traditional things of having friends, being married, having your kids, having your family, that stable foundation to rely on is always essential. And I can see with certain artists in the industry, I won't mention their names, where they don't have any of those things. They get lots of money, they go crazy, and bad things happen to them because they don't have that foundation which keeps them psychologically sane. So you need that. I understand you need it, but I don't know. It's like that money can be very tempting to make you say and do crazy things and almost make you feel invincible, I guess. I don't know.
So let's talk about money, though. Let's talk about money. And since we're talking about comedians, David Chappelle. Mwah.
I've never liked David Chappelle.
I do. I like this man. But I will tell you why I like him has less to do. I like his humor sometimes I don't. But when he walked away from the deal with Comedy Central, it was. I thought
it was HBO.
Okay, whoever
Okay.
HBO, Comedy Central, I don't know, but it was a whole lot of money for doing his show that was very successful. Okay, he walked away from that. For me, that has power, but he walked away from it for the very reason that I am talking about, because of his sanity.
Yeah.
His sanity and his humanity was in jeopardy, and so. He had a talk with his father, actually, years before that. And so I am just not so cynical that that's lost on me.
I understand.
That's lost. But of course, I really, really value humanity a lot. I'm always looking for that humanity. In my expanded relationships, in my close relationships, and I look how someone values my humanity as well. I think that's a very big part of us understanding where our boundaries should be and how much that we should trust someone with ourselves. If I see that you are clumsy with me and who I am, then you get a different boundary than if I see that you are careful with me.
True. I wouldn't disagree. But then I think also with Chappelle, wasn't he hinting at some real devilish forces behind the scenes that were really trying to get him to? Because I remember him giving a talk where he mentioned Martin Lawrence was roaming on the streets, almost crazed, half naked, screaming, "They're trying to kill me." So I think there was almost like a spiritual warfare thing he was kind of hinting at that was going on. But I can understand there were things that maybe they wanted him to. Oh, yes, he said he kept on trying to connect dots that maybe he shouldn't be connecting. Like, why is it that certain Black men were always having to dress up like women or some things like that? Yeah. And he mentioned that he'd been asked that. So I guess, yes, I see what you're saying. They were probably things that were suggested to him that he should do to further his career and make that extra money, a lot of money. And I guess, as you said, it affected him. And because he had that foundation, because you mentioned his father, his family, he said, I'm not okay with this. And he spoke to them about it. And I guess, they were like real people. It wasn't like the circle of people who he was now associating himself with, who probably would have said, yeah, go ahead, dress up like a woman. It's no big deal, make that money. So he wanted to talk to real people who cared about him, and it kept him sane. And he took a break, but he's now come back. He's now come back into.
But he took number one, he took a very long break. And number two, I want to make sure I highlight the conversation that he had with his father was long before the incident that happened. Okay. So, and it was, I'm paraphrasing, but basically his father told him that if the fame started costing him more, then, essentially more than he could bear, that he should leave. You know, fame can be expensive. So it's so many. For me, it's just, it cannot be about, life cannot be about money. Money is good. My humanity and my heart is worth me way more. You cannot, just cannot be bought. You know, um, I said
That's
to,
why we will never be celebrities for that reason.
you know, money. I told my nephew one time, I said to him, um, you make money. Money does not make you. And it was within a conversation where he was just kind of thinking and building his manhood. He's such a lovely little gentleman. But it was in a point of his molding. And he was thinking through things. And I just like kind of got right in his face so that he knew that I was serious, that he makes money. Money doesn't make him. It can't be your identity. You cannot build your life on that, because your money, you might be rich one day, you might be poor one day. Who you are should never change. Your experiences can change, but
Yeah.
your identity should not be based off of that. It's not a part of your checkbook.
Well, I think that's why humility is so important. You know, humility is that thing that keeps us grounded. And if we don't have humility, I mean, you're just going to float away wherever the wind pushes you. So I think
Mm-hmm.
humility grounds you in place where you have somewhere to fall back on to keep your balance and keep your bearing.
Mm, mm. I like that. I like that. Let's talk about the response of the community and bystander apathy. And I feel like I saw some of that.
Say that again. What is it?
Bystander apathy, and it is how people respond to um, pain and trauma in the moment. For instance,
Mm,
if I am walking down the street and I see someone beating up a person, I don't call the police. I don't stop or anything. I just keep on with my day. That
yeah.
is bystander apathy. And although I realized some people didn't know if it was real or not real, you know, I realized there were some dynamics there. But I also feel like there was some bystander apathy. And I certainly know
Mm.
that as a community, our appetite for bystander apathy is expanding.
Mm.
What are your thoughts, gentlemen?
Sorry, I missed that part you mentioned about apathy. I had to quickly
But,
run off to, to
okay,
something. Sorry.
I'm going to see what Steve has to say. He's going, hmm. Are you
Yeah.
going? Are you going through your many psychology books that you've almost memorized? What is happening in your mind, Steve?
Oh man, I think Bradford would have been better to answer that question. However, there's some unique circumstances to that where if I saw someone getting beat up, so what's going through let's go through the scenarios. Let's say you see one guy get like beating the daylights out of another guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're in a football field, nobody's around, but you're walking by, right?
Mm-hmm.
One dude's just knocking the dirt out of this other guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who is at fault? What do, right? Well, um, let's say that as a citizen, you have a duty to not allow someone to kill someone else.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fairly reasonable, requirement for civilized society. Now, let's say that I'm a concealed carry permit owner. I carry a firearm every day. Okay. Now, let's say I see a guy pull out a knife and he's about ready to stab the guy that's laying on the ground. Let's say it's my duty to shoot the man with the knife because he's going to kill that person. The person on the bottom is in an imminent loss of his life. So I shoot the guy with the gun, he dies. Now we find out that the dude that had the knife was the father of a child who was molested, and the guy that he was going to stab was the child's molester. Now what? Now what? What I did wasn't wrong, but I'm thinking I kind of wish I wouldn't have shot the guy. You know what I mean? So these things they're not cut and dry. They're not simple. So sometimes what we do is we think maybe the guy on the bottom deserved the ass whooping.
So my thought process was not, it could be that I'm a woman. I don't know, but I'm thinking maybe we don't shoot anybody actually, but we we fire a warning shot in the air, and the goal is to stop action. I don't have to figure
that.
Right.
I can't do that.
We can't fire. Can we fire it into the ground?
Wait, what do you mean you can't do that? Why do you have to shoot someone? You can just point the gun up in the air. I mean, it just takes a second, Steve. What do you mean it doesn't work that?
Because I'm responsible for wherever that bullet goes.
It's just gonna go up in the air.
It doesn't matter. I'm responsible for where that goes.
Yeah.
So here's the thing.
Can it go into the ground? Can you shoot it into the dirt? The bullet went into the dirt.
It's careless. It's extremely careless because bullets don't just stay together when they hit something hard. They turn into shrapnel, and you're likely to hurt yourself or someone else. The whole thing is like if the situation wasn't serious enough to pull your gun, you shouldn't be firing your gun. Period. So
maybe don't fire the gun. Maybe say stop.
Sure, you can do that, but if the guy's got a knife and he's about ready to stab this guy, you don't have time to talk about it. That's
outcome is not yours there, but at least you did not have bystander apathy. So my concern is bystander apathy. Sometimes we cannot make the outcome be what we prefer, right? But we can act in our most responsible way and not ignore the trauma that is happening in front of us. Okay. Sometimes there's big bystander apathy, and sometimes there is intimate bystander apathy. I'll give you an example. Oftentimes in homes where someone is being abused, there's another person who is a witness and they are not being abused. Okay. That person might be a sibling, or that person might be a spouse. And what they do is allow the abuse to happen for whatever reason. Maybe they're scared, or maybe since it's not happening to them, or oftentimes with sexual abuse, the person is not believed.
Yeah.
And so allowing pain to happen and not doing anything happens far too often. And when that is done, it empowers the abuser.
Right.
And I would like us to stop empowering abusers. I just want us to stop that. How can we have to feel some greater measure there than this. Do something different. Maybe you don't shoot your gun, but maybe you do say stop. Maybe you do report. Maybe when the person is stabbed, you call 911. Yeah. Some kind of action.
Because I couldn't do the shooting thing, not because I have some love of human beings. I'm like, I think you're taking it for granted that when you shoot the person, that the police are going to come pat you on the back and then that'll be it. No, you shot somebody. There's a criminal situation there. It could end up going to a courtroom. There's going to be prosecution against you and a defense. They're going to bring up a whole bunch of scenarios to really question why you did what you did. It's not going to be clear cut. And I'm like, I don't really want to take that risk, because the prosecution could find a way to just make me look like some psychopath who just brought out a gun and just used it. And before I know it, the jury or the judge will say, well, you know, what you did was actually wrong. in the world of the courtroom, anything can happen with a good prosecutor against you. So I'm just thinking from that perspective. If I shoot this person, this is not going to be like a Hollywood movie where I'm Dirty Harry or something. I'm just like, yeah, it was a clear-cut case. He was a bad guy. It's like the law will find a way to, it will punish you. It's like, it's not that simple. They don't really want people, even though in your constitution, they don't want people going around bringing out their guns and using it. They don't want that message to, even though legally you can do it with open carry, depending on the state you're in. No government, no local government, from what I've seen, wants to promote the average citizen doing that type of stuff. So
I don't know. In Arizona and in Texas, you get what you get.
But you have to be careful. Only certain people can be promoted doing that. You ain't promoting indigenous Native Americans walking around open carry or Black Americans walking around open carry. I've seen footage where white people have parades where they're doing open carry. There's no problem, but it doesn't mean that every Tom, Dick, and Harry in America has that right. But I'm just saying, I'm not a Black American, but I'm just saying, if maybe it's different, I would think twice before I squeeze that trigger, because I don't think it would be so clear cut and I would be able to sail off into the sunset. That's all I'm saying.
No, we have a responsibility. Like the prosecution has the responsibility to make sure that I was not at fault. So that's not the part of the conversation that I'm.
Sorry, you said the prosecution. I thought it'd be your defense. It would be your defense's responsibility.
So the prosecuting attorney, the police, they have a duty to investigate that whole situation and make sure that I was either at fault or I'm clear. They have a responsibility to do that. So once I discharge that weapon, no, listen. Once I discharge the weapon, the decision's been made. And the police, the prosecuting attorney, everybody involved in that line has to do what they're supposed to be doing. They have to investigate it to make sure that I was right in shooting. Otherwise, the system breaks down. They have an obligation to make sure that I was correct in my shooting.
On paper, yes. On paper, they have that obligation. But then you might suddenly find something suddenly comes up which will surprise you, and then you're going to have to run up to get a defense lawyer, because you're like,
I already acknowledged that outcome could be a possibility.
Okay, cool. All right, fair enough. All right.
Like I don't know of a single person who carries that doesn't have that understanding.
All right, then. All right, cool. I missed that part when you said that. Well, since you already have that understanding, cool. Fair enough.
Yeah, it's widely known, because you have to go through classes. You have to, and it depends on what state you're from. But I got to clear this up, and then we should refocus. But the states, it's not like the Wild West like most countries think we are. No, we actually have to go through training. We have to go through courses, classes. Some states require that you have to have a competency test, so you have to be able to shoot the gun you're going to be carrying. Otherwise, you can't carry it. So you can't have some 90-pound individual carrying around a Desert Eagle 5.0, and if they can't even hold it up, then they shouldn't be carrying it. I think Arizona actually has a law regarding that, or it was Nevada. Like, you have to be able to accurately shoot and discharge a weapon to be able to carry it. So you actually have to get certified for each and every single firearm that you are going to carry. My state is a constitutional state, which means I don't need a certificate. I can carry, period. I don't need to ask permission to practice my right to my Second Amendment right. Some people are uncomfortable with that. Some people aren't. But what I can say is our gun violence hasn't gone up. It's actually gone down. So there's a lot to that. But I think the apathy, to refocus this, the apathy that we're experiencing here is that we've come to a point in society where we don't see human beings as human beings anymore. There is a certain disconnect that we have, where if you don't believe what I believe, or you don't follow what I follow, or you don't think the way that I think, you're not a human being. You don't deserve the right to think. You know what I mean? You don't deserve the right to be. There's been no shortages of people and I talked about this on my podcast, is Clementine Ford. COVID's not killing men fast enough. It's not a joke. Like, she really did mean that, even though she wants to excuse it as one. It's not a joke. It's not funny. She's not a comedian. Right? So you know, there's people that would happily advocate the death of any human being just purely because they don't like them. And that's the society that we live in. We've lost the connection between what makes society what it is. It's a collection of human beings being able to live together civilly, and somewhere that's gone awry. I think there's a lot of conversation there, but that's just my prima facie statement on that matter.
Sorry, what was the answer to your question? Because you created the scenario, Steve, and then you said after you shot the guy, you then realized that the guy was defending his child because the person he was going to attack was a child molester or something.
Sure.
And then you realized that the man you shot was trying to, I think he was taking revenge for his child being sexually molested. Yep. So, because I never got the answer from you and when you found that out psychologically, how do you think that would affect you? Because
horribly.
Okay. All right, fair enough.
I would feel horrible. But that doesn't mean that what I did wasn't legally right. It can be legally right, but morally wrong. I mean, that's an argument I don't think any one of us would actually argue being true. It's more than possible to be legally, you know, safe, but, you know, morally or even ethically, we might absolutely hate ourselves for doing it.
Sure. Okay.
You know, I would feel horrible. Absolutely. But in the eyes of the law, I'd be right. It would be a righteous shooting. Absolutely. In that case, because my position is not to, because I would be taking the place of judge, jury, and executioner if I was to say, well, because he's defending his child's honor, I shouldn't shoot him. You know, I shouldn't protect the other person. No, that's not how that works. And you might think by saying that it's actually functioning backwards. No, the responsibility of someone who actually does carry is not to make those decisions. My decision is if I see someone who is in imminent physical danger of losing life or limb, it is my obligation to step in. There's actually been cases where a concealed carry permit holder watched someone get shot and killed, or I think it was a stabbing, and did nothing. He was actually prosecuted because he actually didn't do anything. Like, we have an obligation in our country to stop those things from happening. And if I knew who it was, I knew the situation, I might behave multiple different ways. I might be like, I didn't see nothing. You know, or I could be like, dude, I might even draw my weapon. I might be like, stop, don't do it. Don't do it. Put this man in front of a jury. Right? Because that's the socially right thing to do, right? Mm-hmm. We have a court system for a reason. Whether it's fair or not, we do have a court system. We can't take vigilantism into our hearts like that. Yeah. And so we need to stand up for the system that we're in, right? That person needs to face a court for multiple different reasons. So it's a difficult situation, sure, but I hopefully that gives you the answer that you wanted. But I definitely do want to refocus this back to what Coach was talking about. And let's say that there's no gun, no knife, and it's just two dudes brawling, and you're off on the side. What do you do? Mm-hmm. You let them fight it out. I don't know, whatever they got going on over there, that's their business. That ain't my business. Yes. Maybe somebody deserves an ass whooping. I don't know. But as long as nobody's going to die,
well,
let them fight.
I think I want to talk about scenarios in which action is required. The scenario where maybe it's not two dudes fighting it out. I'll give you an example. I was at the hospital and I noticed that there was a man and a woman and they were arguing, and she was pounding on him. The baby was in the middle of the car, and her body weight was hurting the baby as she was pounding on him. He then took the baby out and set the baby on the side of the road, like on the sidewalk. Um, and then she got out to attend to the baby, and he left them both there. Okay.
What?
This is what happened. This is what happened. So, I was able to see the whole scenario. And I thought it was important that it was noted that he was being abused. I could have just had bystander apathy and went, it's whatever. But if you only tell part of the story, he really looks like the bad guy. But if you
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, if you only tell part of that story, he really looks like the bad guy. But in reality, yeah, it might have not been the best decision for him to put the baby on the side of the road, but he was also being physically attacked. So it's not it's not like a pure situation where, oh my God, he's so horrible, right? And so I actually called the hospital security, but when other witnesses were telling the story, because they did not see the first part, once he got out of the car and the baby was on the sidewalk, more people, their eyes came. It's like, oh my God, that guy, he put that baby on the sidewalk. So more people got involved, right? Because whose heart doesn't go out for a baby, right? And then the woman was going, he put me and my baby out. And she was wailing and, all of these things. But I made sure that I stuck around just to tell the rest of the story that many people didn't witness beforehand. What I did was the lack of bystander apathy. But so many times there is great bystander apathy. Just having enough care to speak up where possible. I didn't do anything. I wasn't in harm's way. I just cared enough to share the input so that a complete picture was told. I'm not saying the young man was all right. I'm not saying that the young man was all wrong, or the female vice versa. I'll let the courts and the law sort that out. But I do think that information was incredibly important.
Would you be happy to be then brought forward as a witness?
I sure would.
Well, in that case, yeah, I would then say your scenario and your response in your scenario is one that I agree with, that I can resonate with, that I could see myself doing. But the other scenario with the gun, I wouldn't do that. But your scenario, I could do what you did. I could see myself doing that. Yeah.
I think we're all faced with different scenarios. Everyone is not going to be like mine. Everyone is not going to be like
It's going to
Steve.
be a different one, yeah.
Yeah, things are going to be like in between, but we have to prepare ourselves for our participation.
True.
We have, for me, I think we have to create some standard for ourselves to what is it that we owe to humanity and on this journey.
That's a big question, because I don't think I owe humanity anything. Because I'll be honest, there are scenarios where I did see two men. I saw one guy throw another guy on the floor and proceed to kick the guy like a football. And I just calmly walked past both of them, went to the supermarket, bought what I needed to buy, and then I walked back. And then I saw both men sitting down on the floor, talking to each other peacefully. So somehow they'd resolved their issues, even though one of them was being kicked around like a football. But I had no intention of getting between them. Had another scenario where I was walking down a quiet road towards where I live, and there was a gang of youths that always hang around that area. For whatever reason, they turned on each other, and right in the middle of the road, they were all fighting, like an inter thing. They were all fighting each other, kicking each other, and thankfully they stab each other. But again, I just walked straight past. It didn't occur to me to come in and say, hey, stop this. It's like, so I guess it depends how you feel at that moment, and it depends on that scenario. There are a lot of gray areas. It's not straight black and white, like you kind of insinuated. It's not that straightforward. You know, you could see a situation and then something in you will just make you respond. And then it could be another situation where you just see and you walk off. Like if I go back all the way to the Chris Rock, Will Smith thing, if that happened in a public place and I saw Will Smith do that to Chris Rock, I just walk past. The two guys have a difference of opinion. Let them figure it out. You know, I wouldn't feel sorry for him, but I don't know. It depends. Maybe if I knew one of them, then I'd be like, oh, maybe now I need to get involved. But no, I'm not. I'm not one of those guys. If I know two guys and they want to fight, I'm the guy who stands back and let them sort it out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not the good Samaritan type person who jumps in, holding them, saying stop. I don't. No.
For sure, I think that for each person, our sympathies lie in different places. Some of us are more tenderhearted than others, for sure. But at the same time, I think we should be asking ourselves those questions.
True.
And I don't think it's good to put yourself in harm's way. I do think it is good to have action as such. You know, I saw someone driving down the road and they appeared to be drunk to me. Okay. Do you look at the license plate and report it, or do you just say, that person's drunk and forget about it? Sometimes it's not necessarily self-sacrificing where you put yourself in harm's way, but you have enough situation awareness to you do what is reasonable for you. So do I chase the car down? No. But do I report? Absolutely. I say there's a car in front of me and their license plate number is blah, 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 and they're driving erratically. At this point, I have done my due diligence. You will not see me chasing the car down, but I do leave my name in case they need, to know what I saw. Yes, I'm not afraid to leave my name.
Okay.
I disagree with
but
that.
Maybe someone else doesn't. Maybe someone else doesn't leave their name, but they do. First of all, let me just tell you, I am not telling anyone to do exactly what I do. What I'm saying is respond at your comfort level, but do respond. Maybe you report and you don't want to be involved thus far, but you give enough information to where the people responsible for doing something about these things, they have the ability to do something about these things.
So what does is it 911 in your country or 999? I always get
it's 911. And 911. You know what? Ellery, tell me where you are, because I believe you're in London, yes or no?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, yes. I wanted people to know that you were from across the pond.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
And not in America, even though we do have a European audience and an African audience, hello, as well. I would say the bulk of our audience does come from America. So yes.
And Canada.
And Canada and Portugal. Hi, Portugal. Hello.
So when you guys dial 911, do they give you the choice of like straight to the police or traffic police or something? Because I'm curious, for that incident, would you go straight to the traffic police and they would use their CCTV cameras to try and find this car?
We don't have CCTV. We don't have CCTV.
Really?
No.
No, on your roads, on your motorways, you don't. Wow, no. That's good to know. That's interesting.
No, we're a free country, man.
Well, you don't. They do in most parts of UK on the motorway. They're like, I know.
Cameras. I'm just giving you shit, man. I'm just giving you shit.
Oh, you do have them. Okay, you just.
We have some places, but the police aren't. They generally don't use them to track vehicles. In the sense that you're thinking. What we'll do is we'll say, okay, well, we know the suspect was headed eastbound, right? Well, they'll go back and they'll review the tapes and they'll say, okay, well, he's heading to eastbound, took this exit, he's over here. And they can follow him through that whole thing, but we don't use them as a use of police presence. We don't use them in that sense. But the thing, like, I wanted to use an example. There was a time where I was riding my bike. I have a bunch of different examples of this, but I was riding my bike and someone actively tried to run me off the road. Like, was absolutely at 70, 80, 90 miles an hour was trying to run me off the road. I'm on an old Harley chopper. There's no suspension. Like, I'm having a hard time keeping away from this guy. And he's just right there trying to run me off the road. So finally what happened is I drew my weapon and I pointed it at him. And sure as shit, he went the entirely opposite direction. Because he tried that's attempted murder on his part. That's attempted murder. I had no other choice. I drew my firearm and I pointed at him and I took the safety off. I was ready to shoot him because now he's threatening to kill me. Right? I have the right to defend myself against that kind of aggressive behavior. I put my weapon back and I followed him. I got his license number and I called the police.
Oh, good.
And then there was another time.
He's trying to kill you? No, just random. Welcome, Ogie. How are you?
Hi. How are you guys doing? Not doing bad.
Ogie's coming in here like, what the hell are you guys talking about?
Yeah. I'm like,
why did you kill? You know, Steve's killed somebody twice in the show. I just.
Oh my days! Oh my days!
No, so there was one other example that I wanted to give is I saw a drunk driver on the freeway at about 4 o'clock, and he had actually struck another car, and he just kept going. And you know, I got up to him and I wrote down the license plate number. I called 911. I said, I'm going to follow this. I'm going to hang back, but I'm going to follow this guy. I'm going to see where he goes and make sure he doesn't harm anybody else. Because if he harms anybody else, there needs to be some kind of a first responder there. So what the general idea of what we're supposed to do in society, like here in the U.S. at least, as far as I've had experience to, is you stay back far enough that they can't tell that you're following them, and you keep up with them and you see where they go. However, if you start to chase them and they start to run, you need to stop. Because at that point, you're responsible. You're also mutually responsible for any damage that happens after that.
Wait, right? So explain to me that law again. I'm not sure I understand.
What do you mean?
You said you have a responsibility to follow them and see where they go?
No, it's not like a responsibility, like a legal responsibility. It's more like it's kind of like just a moral consensus that we have, is that, you know, we will follow them until we can no longer follow them, in that sense that either they take off and they realize that we're following them, or if we deem it too dangerous. Like even the police here, if they see someone flying at like 120, they won't pursue, because any damage that happens after that, the police can be held accountable for that. So they tend to like back off. Even in the larger metropolitan cities, they tend to back off. But for me personally, I'm going to follow the guy at a distance. I'm going to see where he's going, keep my eye on him, and see where he's going the whole time I'm on the phone with the police. Because when the police come, I want to be able to like point at the car, like that's the guy, right? So there's been a lot of situations. Like my sister was hit by a drunk driver, and it took another driver following them to call the police on their cell phones to tell them where they were, because nobody else did. Like that lady could have got scot-free off, free and clear, because it wasn't her car. You know, she stole the car. So there was no way to track who actually did the damage. But because that person took the initiative to call the police, follow at a distance, knew where she went, lady crashed into a gas station of all places, they were able to catch her and she was prosecuted. So there's different scenarios for everything. But I think the apathetic way is not necessarily a good or responsible way to conduct oneself in society. I think we have to have some kind of care and concern for our fellow human beings.
So you advocate for getting involved. You're against bystander apathy as well. See?
Yeah.
Yay!
But that's not to say that my way is right. It's just that's the way that I have to live. So to say that somebody else didn't do that, I don't necessarily want them to feel like we're telling them that they're wrong or they're bad human beings. That's not the point. The point is that at some point in time we have to make a decision of how involved we want to be in civil society and what are our responsibilities to do that to make the world a better place.
So we're back to my original statement. Is that,
by the way, Augie,
Yeah.
I got my my Letterkenny shirt on for you, just for you.
oh gosh.
Right
What
on.
is this inside joke I'm experiencing? What is this? What is this?
I'll let Steve explain.
No. Nope.
I rest my case then, Coach Love. You know.
Oh my, oh my, oh my, oh my. There shall be some investigation about this off camera. I'm telling you. Just saying, just saying, just saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a Canadian thing. We'll just
Yeah.
put it that way.
Okay. So, Ogie, you are hanging out from Canada, yes?
Yes, indeed I am.
Do you have, what are your gun laws like there?
Interesting. That is not something I know in depthly. However, what I would say is obviously, like in Canada here, we don't have like open carry permits. A lot of people that typically have guns usually use them to hunt,
Okay.
right? And you have obviously the like the odd occasion where it's just kind of more for personal protection. But so far, gun laws here in Canada, it's like strictly regulated.
In America, we hunt people.
Good Lord.
Right.
Coach, you're giving us a bad name. What the hell?
Like
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But it's kind of, just saying. Just saying, we say we hunt animals, but we say animal people. We kind of like dogs better. No.
Where do you live? Where do you live? So I never go there.
Right?
I don't ever want to go where
You're killing me. You're killing me.
Yeah.
No, I'm just talking about this attitude in America about we're a little that way. I'm joking a little bit, right?
Yeah.
But
I hope so.
I'm joking a little bit, but we are kind of wild in the way that we do things. I think so. Don't you think so? It couldn't be just me.
I mean, from the perspective of your neighbor up north, I would say we definitely have, as Canadians, we definitely have the view of United States, especially as pertains gun laws and how easy it is for just like common folks to get them. Kind of think you guys are in your own bubble.
This is what I can say, that these are just kind of wild general impressions, but in across the pond they're going to knife you to death. In America we're going to shoot you to death. In Canadians you're going to run.
Well, I wouldn't say that.
But you will feed whoever wins the meal. There you go.
I don't know. Canadians were kind of peace-loving people, but
yes, whoever wins the knife gun fight.
Yeah,
you're gonna have a meal prepared. This is just
Yeah, absolutely. And then maybe take over the spoils.
Yeah, there you go.
Of whoever who's or of whoever is defeated in that, we come
Right.
That's why Canadians are so peaceful, is because they never stop apologizing to one another. Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, sorry.
That's lead the apology tour. Let me just say, welcome, Blue. Welcome, Harry. How are you doing, guys?
Good. How you doing?
Good.
Awesome.
Hey,
I hope
Nice to meet OG and Larry.
Hi, Blue. Hi, Harry.
I hope I don't get in trouble for my bad American jokes. Are you guys here to take me to the American not nice?
Here to take her to task.
Come to beat me up. The Second Amendment. I celebrate the Second Amendment. I'm just saying we will shoot you. I'm just saying.
Not for any reason. Like, we don't just go around shooting people.
Only if you deserve it.
True. That is not true. We do. Not all Americans. I've managed to get through life not shooting anybody. Somehow I've managed to do that. But I'm saying there was a guy, first of all, it was at a movie theater. And I think it's this guy, he's up in age in his 60s, and he's watching a movie. And there's a young guy, young enough to be recently engaged. Okay. The guy that's in his 60s is an older white gentleman. The young guy is a younger white gentleman, and he has a fiance, and she's also white, and they're just everybody's trying to watch a movie, and somebody was yelling, making noise. No, the cell phone. The one guy was on the cell phone. He told him to get off, and he shoots them. The old guy shoots the young guy. The old guy got off. I'm just saying, in America, please, you know what? You gentlemen talk. I will look up this case for you. Okay?
Please do.
Yeah. You know what? I am so glad you're doubtful of me. So now I can look it up for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So talk.
So, Coach, just to segue, are we on the part of the conversation that has to do with masculinity? Is that the reason why? Oh, masculinity. Okay.
I thought this was the bystander effect.
Well, we were talking about the bystander effect, and Steve gave us this scenario where he's shooting someone, and so that's kind of how we got into the gun conversation. But I'm glad we're moving through masculinity, because men do shoot one another more than women, although it is not masculinity.
Technically, we shoot ourselves more frequently.
Yeah, and the foot.
That is actually true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so out of the 43,000 gun deaths, I think it was like 2019, it was something along the lines of 2/3 of those were suicides. The majority were men.
How many of them were cops?
There was only about, I think, if memory serves, I think there was only about 400-500 of those were police officers, I think.
Turns out most of them were dentists.
Yeah, dentists are like one of the highest for suicide. Yeah.
Why is that?
Nobody likes a dentist.
Well, I mean, you got your fingers in someone else's mouth for a living. I don't know how appealing that would be.
You're never dealing with somebody who's having their best day ever when you're a dentist.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah.
The same is true of cops, though.
It's not as bad as being a gynecologist, though. Sure.
I don't know. I think that would be a pretty great living. I don't know.
I never want to get sick of that. That's the problem. You get sick and tired at work. You can get sick and tired of what you do for a living, but so I never want to get sick and tired of that. You know what I mean? So no, I wouldn't want to be a gynecologist.
As a mechanic,
God, look what I come back to.
As a mechanic, I'm always elbow deep in a car. I would never want to be elbow deep in my work as a gynecologist.
Oh my God! I cannot believe this is what I come back to. I can't.
If you're a gynecologist and you're elbow deep in your work, you're probably a veterinarian.
Probably.
My goodness. Okay, so let's see. Can you guys see this?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, I can.
Okay, good, good, good. And so here we are, retired SWAT commander acquitted after fatally shooting man in movie theater fight over phone. This is America. I'm just saying we shoot people in America, and this is the case in which I was speaking of.
Did that happen in Florida?
You know what? That's a really good guess. I'm not sure. Let me see.
Yeah, I'm actually just looking at the banner tag. It says Brooksville, Florida. So,
Wouldn't
there you
surprise
go.
me.
You know, Florida.
Yeah, the thing about that is that there's a legal concept called disparity of force.
okay.
Mhm.
So while we're talking about guns, but it can apply to any force that you apply to someone,
Yeah.
because basically living in a civil society, exerting physical force is out of line, and we all started this with the Will Smith thing, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So was Will's reaction proportional to the offense that he was given? A proportional response would have been a verbal response.
Yeah, sure.
His wife was attacked verbally. He can respond verbally. Okay. But when he assaulted Chris Rock, he took a violent response to a verbal stimulant.
Mm-hmm.
That
I've said
is
this multiple times. It was disproportionate.
right. So I mean, and it applies whether it's guns, knives, ball bats, or even fists. So
Mhm.
any level of violence in response to, so you can apply proportional force in order to defend yourself or others. That man was old, and the law recognizes the disparity of force between an older man and a younger man, or a woman and a man.
Mm.
So it's not, like there's no one size fits all when it comes to the application of force in your own defense. So this man was retired, and that was obviously a much younger man. So he didn't just stand up, and when he told the guy to shut off his phone or asked him to shut off his phone, the man refused, and so he shot him. I'm sure that the young man basically was about to exert violence upon him. And the reason that the man was acquitted for shooting him was because there was that big disparity of force. And so he was literally, if the young man said, well, I'm just going to beat your ass, that older gentleman, his life was at that point in real danger. You can only shoot somebody if you are you or someone else, an innocent life, not, as Steve was talking about, someone who started the fight. That person is not innocent. They committed an assault, right? In my state, if you shoot the guy who started the argument, you're okay. If you shoot the guy who was defending himself, even if he was about to take that other person's life, you are wrong, and you will be charged with homicide of some degree, whether it's manslaughter or something higher. That's up to the prosecutor and what they think they can prove in court. So that the way that article was written, if it does not acknowledge that the man was about to be attacked or that the younger man was initiating attack on him, it's poor journalism. And it's poor journalism because by discarding that fact, concealing that fact, not including that fact in the story, they're leading you to believe that the law allows you to capriciously shoot someone, which it doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't. The law doesn't allow you to take life in defense of property. In no state is it legal to take a life in defense of property. You can exert force in defense of property. So if you look out on the street and somebody's trying to break into your car, you can't shoot them. You can't attack them with a baseball bat. You can go out and push them or punch them to defend your property. That's proportional.
That's not true, though.
Huh?
Well,
in Utah, I can.
I just want to say
Utah,
this. I just want to say this. In America, in opposed to other places, there are several scenarios in which it's okay to be shot, as opposed versus in, in England, in Britain,
Yeah.
that is just not an option. So I was saying it a little jokingly, facetiously, but the reality is there are a long list of scenarios, basically,
Yeah.
that you will find yourself in where it's legal to get a hole blown in your body.
Mm-hmm.
Like that
Versus,
guy who
Well,
turned
we have
up
the
to
inherent
that
right
BLM
to
protest
self-defense.
with the gun, with the AR-15, and
I'm
he
sorry, say
shot
it again.
the guy who turned up to that BLM protest with the AR-15, and he was
Kyle
being
Rittenhouse?
chased, and,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and he shot a couple of people. He got. I wouldn't say he got away with it, but the law protected him and said that he didn't
Yes,
commit
the
a
law.
crime.
So yes, the law will protect you and allow you to shoot people. So that is not the case in England. First of all, don't nobody beat me up. I believe in still in carry. I believe in our Second Amendment. I'm just saying, in America, you might get shot.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
there's
I'd like to know when the change happened, when two guys got into, let's just say, because as you know, everybody can relate to this. Two guys get into a fight, they step outside of a bar, they beat the tar out of one another, and then they go back inside and have a beer. Problem solved. When did this denigrate into a situation where two guys get into a fight in a bar, they go outside, get in a fight, one guy pulls a gun and shoots the other guy? When did that happen?
I don't know, but I wish we would go back to the old way.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, when we quit having a value for life, and is the reason why bystander apathy has gone up. We don't take responsibility for the sanctity of one another's humanity. We simply don't care.
They would rather stand there and film it than get involved.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, let's film this. And just, you see these people holding their cameras up, their phones up, filming stuff. Why aren't they taking that phone and calling 911?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Why aren't they putting the phone in their pocket and breaking up the fight?
And the thing is, there's no social accountability for that. Nobody ever, when they find a video posted on YouTube or on Snapchat of somebody being assaulted, there's, you just don't, the reaction of, what the hell were you doing filming? Why weren't you on the phone with the police? And basically nobody watching the video, or just basically ratioing the hell out of whoever posted it. Unfortunately, they can literally make money off of that video. They can get views to their channel. They can expand their viewership. There's no social accountability. Nobody, it's not a value. We value the entertainment of being able to watch the assault more than we value the concept that individual did not do anything to stop the assault or to get somebody there who could stop the assault.
Well, and then you're falling into that realm of, can you do it? Most certainly. Should you do it? Questionable. As far as the actual filming goes, when you should be doing something else. I mean, good Lord, I was raised, you see two guys getting into a major fight, and if they start pulling out weapons, you call the cops.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah. I'm not aware of any states that allow you, like the bar thing, right? They take the fight outside and one guy winds up. I'm not aware of any states where it's legal to handle a firearm while you're intoxicated.
My state, you have to be below the legal limit.
My state allows you to carry in a bar if you're not drinking. If you're a concealed carrier, okay. Although constitutional carry kicks in June, but and the same law will apply to them because the way the law is written is that you are presumed, if you are otherwise legally allowed to possess the weapon, you are presumed to have a concealed carry permit under the way our law is. That's going to kick in June, but can
I just add
you to be in a bar and carry as long as you don't drink. The moment that you take a sip of beer, you're now a felon.
Yeah. Wow. So let me add something to that, Blue, is that in my state, in Utah, we're allowed to carry up until the legal limit, which our legal limit is 0.05. It's not 0.08 like the rest of the country. But I don't know a single concealed carry permit holder that walks into a bar and is so irresponsible as to get shit-faced drunk while carrying. I don't know a single one. And most of us, if we go into a bar, and this, myself included, I'm either not drinking or I'm drinking. And if I'm not drinking, I'm going to carry. If I am drinking, I might have a beer, but then I'm not having anything else. And I'm a heavy drinker, so one beer is like, it's a glass of water to me. But if I drink any more than that, I'm going to be putting my gun out in my lockbox in my car or my truck, and I'm not going to be getting it, period. Like, you just resolve yourself to being a responsible human being.
I don't want to go down this rabbit hole, but I do want to make this marker in our conversation. If I cannot carry my gun, I'm not saying it's responsible to, but if I cannot carry my gun when I am intoxicated, are my First Amendment rights being limited? Okay, nobody answer.
First or second?
I'm sorry. My Second Amendment rights. Thank you. My Second Amendment rights being limited. Are they being violated? Are my Second Amendment rights being violated? We're not going to answer it now, but I do want to mold that over. I think we do need a Second Amendment show, guys.
I was just going to say we should have a Second Amendment discussion. Yeah.
We really
I jump in on that, Coach.
Yeah. Well, hey, for sure.
Frankly, real quick, and I lived in Nebraska for many, 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 many years before we moved out to Virginia. And I used to carry with me, and you guys are going to find this freaking bizarre. I carried a 44 Magnum with an 8-inch barrel on my side, open carry, in a holster. I didn't. Now, mind you, it wasn't all the time. I mean, it wasn't every time I went out the door, this thing was strapped to my side. It was on occasion, generally when we were heading out into the country, usually to go hunting. But I didn't hesitate at any point, and in Nebraska anyway, to walk into a 7-Eleven or walk into a Quick Trip or a Quick Shop, gas and whatever you want to call the little quick stores, and I wouldn't get a second glance. Now, if I did the same thing where we live at now, I walk into a 7-Eleven out here carrying that same gun in the same holster at the same time, you can bet your bottom dollar I'd be surrounded by cops in a matter of minutes, because it's the difference in the way things are viewed in different parts of the country. Does that make any sense? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I open carry all the time, and I've only had like one person stop and ask me, like, so I was in a Home Depot, and this lady stopped me and was like, "Are you a police officer?" I'm like, "No." And she's like, "Well, why are you carrying a firearm? Are your friends that bad?" I'm like, "Lady, that has absolutely nothing to do with the reason why I'm carrying. And believe me, if I really had that bed of friends, you probably wouldn't see the gun in the first place. The fact that you can see it does not denote criminality on my part."
Well, we'll have that conversation, and I want to say that our brothers and sisters from other countries, Canada, and Britain, you guys are welcome to give us your feedback on how you think we're viewing things. We're not changing any of our rights for what you think, but your opinion is nice, right? All right. But that's it. Let us move on to masculinity.
Okay.
Do you feel that, and I'm just going to do a round table here. I'm going to start with Steve. Steve, do you believe Chris Rock was being masculine?
Do I believe Chris Rock was being masculine in what way?
In the way that he handled the situation, do you believe he was being masculine? Yes or no?
Oh, Rock behaved like a king.
Okay.
Like he took the hit and he recovered, and I mean, obviously he was a little shook, a little surprised, but he owned it, man. He took that hit and he got right back up, standing up straight, and was like, "Well, that was weird. Let's continue on with the show."
So we have a
he handled it like a champ.
We have a yes on Chris Rock. Was Will Smith behaving masculine? No,
not at all.
Not at all. Ellery, Chris Rock, was he behaving masculine?
For Chris Rock, I don't even know what being masculine means. It's different for different people. But for this question, I'll say yes, he was masculine the way he handled it. I mean,
Okay,
he
and
could have
Will
started
Smith?
crying on stage. Will Smith. Yeah. Oh, he was very masculine. He was hyper masculine.
Oh, hyper masculine.
Testosterone, adrenaline, all pumped in there. Yeah. So he was masculine. Defending his woman. Yeah.
Okay. Harry, Chris Rock, was he behaving masculine?
Chris Rock took it like pardon the expression, he took it like a man and continued on with the show. Looking back on some of the clips, you could see in his face the shock of what had happened. But he also knew that he had a show to carry on. Now, frankly, I think that Will should have been carried out of the place by a couple of security guards and taken out, just tossed from the event altogether.
Okay, and we're going to come back to unpack it more. But so I'm getting a yes on Chris, a no on Will. Blue, Chris Rock, was he behaving masculine? Yes or no?
Yeah, I think so. I agree with Steve's appraisal of it and Larry's appraisal of it. Yeah.
Okay, and then Will Smith, can I get a yes or no for you?
It's not as simple as a yes or no. I would say that what you have here is two examples of masculinity. One is a positive example and the other is a negative example.
Okay. Ogie.
The way I was taught masculinity is pretty much simple: control of your emotions and your thoughts, right? So for me, I would say Chris Rock, his reaction within that context fits a definition of what I would term to be masculine. But also, had he decided to separate Will Smith from consciousness on sight, that would have still fit within my definition of masculinity. So the first part to me just shows a man in control of his emotions, right? Just a man in control of his emotions. Will Smith, on the other hand, what I saw was a bully. That's pretty much it. Yeah, I wouldn't say he was being. I just saw someone who felt that he could get on a stage, assault another person just because maybe he felt there was a power differential he could exploit. So I basically would sum Will Smith's action as just predatory bully behavior.
If you go by your definition, would you consider Will Smith's behavior a lack of control of emotion and his mental capacity? Would you consider that a lack of masculinity if he can't control himself?
That's a good. God damn it, Steve! You should know how to. You know what? I would definitely consider that to be a lack of masculinity. Yeah,
because I'm in agreement with you.
Yeah,
I have another take on it, which is that Will Smith did not give any indication that he was about to physically assault. I mean, you could say, well, he's walking up there, this could go wrong, right? Chris Rock's hands were literally behind his back when he was struck. He was ambushed. That was what if he had hit him with a closed fist, we would call it a sucker punch. Which it was an ambush. He didn't give any indication that he was going to exert physical violence against Chris at that point. Chris didn't even have a chance to defend himself. And in that way, I would say that it was kind of a bitch move.
Well, I think Chris leaned in because he was expecting an earful. He didn't lean in to take a punch. He leaned in because he was going to get an earful. I think that's what he expected.
Yeah, I did. And that kind of behavior is not masculine.
So I agree with you. I do not think that I can classify Will Smith's behavior as masculine, but I do want to say that there is confusion about whether it was or not. And if you know me, if you've been hearing me, you've been listening to me for a while, you know I'm big on this idea of positive masculinity. This has provided such a good ground for me to point it out, because I think that we attach physical violence so much to masculinity, and it is not that sometimes that violence wouldn't be appropriate. For instance, if somehow Chris Rock was looking to physically attack Jada, then a physical attack from Will would have been an example of positive and productive masculinity. It's just that he became a bully in he became physical in a verbal situation. And that is absolutely not okay. His lack of control was disgusting. And I just don't want that to be viewed as any type of masculinity at all. As a matter of fact, I think it's more acting like a bully and a baby than having anything to do with true manhood.
If I might.
Okay, sorry.
If I might. And by the way, OJ, I really did appreciate your definition of masculinity. I want to acknowledge that and not talk past it, because I think that is Jordan Peterson talks about that a lot, about controlling the beast. But I want to point out that violence is not a masculine thing. Violence is a human capacity. It, on the spectrum of human behavior, I don't believe in anything being strictly masculine or feminine, that there are just strong tendencies. And I believe that I've heard several of the people on here right now say something similar in the past. So I think we can find agreement on that. The thing is that the reason it's called masculine is because it is something that we see manifested more on the male side of the masculine side of the spectrum, just like agreeableness or caring and compassion they're viewed as feminine traits. They're not. They're human traits, but they are found more strongly on the feminine side of the spectrum. So it's not distinct lines. It's a blending, like a spectrum of colors, right? So they blend into each other. So I think that this is where OG's point comes in really, really clear, in that we have human tendencies. We also have the responsibility, and as mature males and females, masculine and feminine people, we have a responsibility to establish that control, not just over our violent tendencies, but over all of our tendencies. We've seen where caring and compassion can actually become harmful, particularly when we're dealing with somebody with substance abuse issues.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, the codependency can result from it can begin with caring and compassion and wind up becoming an abusive, enabling relationship. So I think OG's point is valid across that spectrum of human capacities. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Can I add something to that, Coach?
Yes, please.
So my wife asked me a long time ago what the difference was between men and women in these circumstances, and in most circumstances. And I told her I couldn't really think of any, with the exception of men's will to do absolute violence. And what that means is that when called upon, we will destroy everything within a 5-mile radius if we have to. Like, to get us to stop takes quite a bit. Like, we have to be exhausted at that point. But what I mean by that is that we have always been expected throughout all time in history, for the longest period of time, up until like the 17, 18, 1900s, and now the 2000s, for the last 400,000 years, men were required to be violent. That was part of our responsibility to the community, was to fight and defend the community and our families, right? So this kind of nature to be violent has been I think you could put it as an evolutionary psychological result of that time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what you find is, like, when a man decides to be violent, it is absolute violence, because we're not going to give you the opportunity to be violent to us again. Whereas I've noticed that women are not that way. Usually they're gonna beat your ass, they're gonna slap you, they're gonna tell you to knock it off, and you're gonna be like, all right, my bad. It's not how men. We're gonna knock you out and make sure that this never happens again. So it's the level of violence that men are comfortable with doing, and that's the only difference that I've been able to find between men and women as far as that's concerned. Everything else, every other trait can be shared across both sexes and genders. So the only thing that I've ever been able to determine is that men's sheer absolute pleasure to do violence when needed is the only difference I've been able to find.
I think that positive masculinity requires a person to be able to delineate when it's appropriate.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, and that's the component that kind of goes with where Ogie and I agree, is that Will exhibited nothing of what we would consider, what I would say would be a regalness to our masculinity, right? There was no inherent dignity in what Chris did. There's none, right? It was just pure, absolute, childish, adolescent violence. There was no king in Will that day, right? Because, you know, a king or a good man should have control of his faculties at all times. He should be able to control himself around society, his wife, his children. You know what I mean? And Will didn't exhibit any of that. You know what I mean? And so in no way can I say that anything that Will did that day was masculine, because I hold men up higher to that. Like, I hold men at a higher stature than, you know, willful adolescent violence. It's just, it's a horrible standard to set for boys and men, that's acceptable behavior. And so that's why I say Will was not exhibiting anything that is masculine at all, at all, period. Like,
but I will say that he was exhibiting. I will say everybody doesn't know that, though. Everybody doesn't. There are people who, as a matter, men and women, and I had someone I respect. She's a woman, and I respect her, but our mindset on this was so different. She went, "Yay, he's defending his woman," and I went, "Yuck, he's being unnecessarily violent." Like, it was cringeworthy for me, and because I felt like he was being unnecessarily violent, and she was like feeling like that's the most masculine thing that I've ever seen. I do not think that they're.
I'd be in agreement with you on that, Coach.
Well, playing devil's advocate for just a quick second in regards to this, we don't know for sure if there's any previous history between Chris Rock and Will Smith and his wife.
Mm-hmm. Said that
Is
before,
this a case of Will Smith taking, okay, that's it, that's the final straw with this guy, I'm fed up to here? Could that be a possibility? We don't know, because that's never been stated.
But I think when it comes to like consequences, that, like, for instance, in a court, if you're being tried for assault, okay, there are aggravating factors and mitigating factors. You know, if you in say a role as a judge were to find that a mitigating factor, then perhaps because this show is about reconciliation, correct?
Say it again.
And this show is about reconciliation, apologies, reconciliation.
Yes.
And,
okay. Yes. That is definitely part of it. Not only, but that's definitely part of it. But yes.
But part of reconciliation, I mean, community wise, like, we can't go back and change the wrong. And that's what laws are meant to, first of all, dissuade people, because there are consequences set, or a range of consequences, a possibility of of consequences, which may be in that case, in the case of assault, it could be a weekend in jail or up to 3 years, for instance. I don't know. I don't know what those consequences are legally for him, but it does give some leeway. But what that's supposed to do, they call it paying your debt to society. They used to, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that takes the place of reparations for the offense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because all we can do, and it's an imperfect system, but all we can do is punish,
Mm-hmm.
right? And this is, I mean, this is really, it boils down to the whole reason for government to begin with. The entire reason for government, if you look, going back, especially our type of government, and England, influenced heavily by Hobbes and Locke, for instance, and Hobbes described what he called the state of nature of man as being a pretty hostile place. Locke disagreed with him on that. Locke, Hobbes was like, that he was the one who said that a man's life is nasty, brutal and short, right? So he viewed man as being inherently violent. Thomas Locke said, no, actually violence is like the outlier, but
You mean John Locke?
Yeah. So he said that people are not like necessarily inherently violent, but in cases people do that. Okay. And government is there to literally prevent us from having to exact our own retribution for an offense against us. That's why, earlier we were talking about the laws that dissuade vigilantism, and we were talking about it in regards to firearms, but it's any physical force. We don't want people taking it upon themselves to enforce the law or what they consider to be the law. So when somebody says, well, Chris Rock deserved that, no, the part of the social contract is that we all agree to eschew violence, to eschew our own retribution, and allow an impartial third party to do that, so that it's fair. Because if we're left to exert our own retribution, exact our own retribution, we do have a tendency to overdo it, like Will did to Chris. Chris did not violently assault Jada. It did not require violence in response. So he exacted his retribution, but it was excessive. And this is why we have laws, is to keep us from having to kill each other because our neighbor built a fence 2 feet into our property and refuses to resolve that, to change where his fence is. So instead we go over and beat the crap out of him. That's not the response. You take him to court, right?
Yeah.
And we let the disinterested third party decide what is fair and set a way to remediate, to reconcile that situation.
Yeah. Well, then,
so
then
before we get too deep, actually we're deep already, but I want to just make this point that is being made in the comment section. Good men do fail occasionally. And I want everyone to know, we're not beating up Will Smith. It takes nothing away from the really amazing guy he has been in all of these years, right? I feel like he's been famous for like 30 years, maybe longer, right? He's more than what was that 5-10 minutes that occurred. Much more. It is just that those 5 or 10 minutes speaks to the heart of what we've been experiencing in our within our social constructs.
Yeah.
And so we really want to talk about it. We really want to examine in particularly in juxtaposition of Chris Rock and what we've seen from him. We had one instance where someone was composed and controlled, and for me represented what a good human would do as well as a good man would do. And unfortunately, we experienced a man just becoming untethered from expectations.
Yeah, well, I think we're starting to get into the realm of where when it comes to reconciliation, it's a two-way street. So we began with apologies, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, but we're focusing on he who gave offense. The other person is also involved, and so we have a responsibility also to deal gracefully with reconciliation. So in a way, if somebody makes a heartfelt apology, the offended person has a responsibility to accept and forgive, because that's where all of this ends. That's where the circle comes full circle.
I would say they have an opportunity. I don't think they have.
But unless they do that, the situation isn't truly over. And the whole concept of reconciliation is to put that behind you. And so to carry the grudge forward after there has been a reconciliation move, for whether it's that individual. Now, I understand that this is very, very difficult to do.
Mm-hmm.
But if the situation is to end up being completely resolved and completely in the rearview mirror,
Mm-hmm.
then the individual who is offended, and the thing is, it's, we know that it's not healthy to carry resentments with us. In Eastern philosophy, that is karma.
Mm-hmm.
Karma sticks to you. And in some Eastern religions, there is no differentiation between positive and negative karma. Whatever clings to you holds you back, whether it's positive or negative. That earthly attachments hold back your spiritual development, prevent you from reaching nirvana, the selflessness. Okay? It keeps you bound in yourself as an individual. So in order, both people need to rejoin that network of energy that we all are a part of. Does that make sense?
Yes, and though. And I'll let Steve pick up because I think he has something burning, but I'll definitely add my thoughts. Go ahead, Steve.
Thank you. Something that Blue said is kind of what I wanted to follow up on here. So there's two things. One is that I think that's the reason why it hurts society in general so much, is because we expected better from Will. It's like, yeah, sure, good men do fail occasionally. And I've only met like one person who wants to cancel Will Smith over this. It's ridiculous. But, the majority of society, I don't think I've heard anybody say like, oh, Will Smith's a trash human being, he should be canceled. I'm not seeing that, because he's a good person who made a mistake. But we want him to own up to that mistake and deal with it like, well, as men would say, we want you to deal with it like a man. Come forward, do the apology, make the repair. Like, let's push this thing forward. You know what I mean? And to add to Blue's example, there was also Jean-Jacques Rousseau who believed that man was fundamentally and naturally good, and that laws are put into place to protect our property. And because those things fall in line, we have to have a third party that allows us the opportunity to do that, to criticize that legally, in the sense that I can take you to court, right? So we actually, as human beings, we enter into society on our own volition, right? And by doing so,
being a contract,
right? In doing so, we give our authority to make those decisions, those moral decisions, to the court, and we allow them to do that. Now, this is kind of where morals and ethics and legal right and wrong come into play. But the point is that we give that right to the courts to be able to make that decision for us, and we expect them to be fair.
That was beautiful.
So we're waiting for Will to take responsibility. We're waiting for that behavior. We're waiting for Will to make that connection and say, I have an obligation to society, and I need to own up to that. It's not about Chris. It's about what you did to Chris that affected society so heavily that we're still talking about it. I think that's the best point that I can make as far as that's concerned.
Yeah, that was beautiful, by the way. And bringing in Rousseau was brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, it's just like, for me, I guess what I what I struggle with, or what I struggled with within the context of Will and Chris's situation, was just the idea that I feel like the context precipitating the assault happened in front of us. So by context, I mean, one, the context of occasion, right? Because it was the Oscar, okay? And also the context of the MC, a comedic juggernaut in terms of Chris Rock, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a suit and tie event. Like you put in comedians in there so they could break the formality, right? And that's Chris's job.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third part for me is the context of what was said.
Mm-hmm.
Jada, I love you. G.I. Joe 2, can't wait to see it.
Mm-hmm.
That was it. Now we could extrapolate, conjecture, whatever we want. But what was said was specifically that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And for Will to take it within himself. And here's also a problem. The problem is these are A-listers. These are people that have access to each other. If you feel like something came off, that didn't really sit well, contact them, behind closed doors, or get your publicity guide. Hey, Chris, Jada wasn't really feeling that joke, right? Like, what's going on? But what I find troubling is the fact that Will got up, assaulted this guy, left the stage, and there was nothing instantly done to remedy that situation. Because whenever I've had conversations with with groups or individuals about this, it's more about this Will's history as a A-list, like that has got nothing to do with what happened, right? Because it unfolded exactly in front of us, and that's the reason why I kind of feel like for true restitution to be done, it has to be something private. Like I would appreciate a situation where Chris didn't have to even come up to offer some form of like public apology. Mm-hmm. It's like, you guys handled this in-house and just, let the public or whatever know, it's sorted out. We're moving on. And that for me would suffice, as opposed to this performance that somehow is still tied with publicity and profit making. And, it's just like, well, I don't know what to do with that. Like, Will, you fell foul. Whatever you had going on, I don't want to make excuses for you. I don't want to even come at it from the perspective of, oh, there was yada, yada, yada going on in your home. No, because to me, that's too much thinking. You got up, you know what's going on, and you assaulted this guy. An apology, a sincere apology from you to him is pretty much enough. And that's kind of where I come at this from.
I disagree with that, but I've got to get going, Coach. Is it possible for me to give my final goodbyes?
Yeah, okay. Absolutely.
So, Larry, always looking great, man. Blue, love you. Augie, love you. Coach, I've got nothing but love for you. And I just want to point to a point of attention here is that every single person here pretty closely had the same idea of what happened there. We just differ in slight details. Mm-hmm. And I think that's great that so many people from so many different backgrounds, from so many different countries and so many different beliefs can still come together and be like, hey, we pretty much all agree on these things. Like, I think that's a really good thing to point out, because we're so divided by ideologies in society today that even though we have multiple different experiences here, like I'm atheist, you're Christian, black, white, all these other different factors, we still all agree that what Will did was wrong, right? And
that's really good. I'm glad you pointed that out.
I just want to say that I appreciate everybody's opinion. Augie, I'm glad that you made it. Blue, I'm glad that you called in. Same with Harry, same with Larry. I'm just really I'm honored and blessed to have such great people in my life that I can talk
Isn't it
to.
awesome?
It's pretty dope. It's
Awesome.
pretty dope. So
Have fun at the party. Have fun at the party, Steve.
Thanks for
all right, we'll see you
thanks
guys.
for everything that you've brought into it as well, Steve. You've made some excellent points and very well supported.
I appreciate that.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you so much. That was amazing. That was absolutely amazing. Blue, I'm going to put you in the middle.
I'm the man in the middle.
You're the man in the middle. That said, I love the way Steve wrapped that up. We are closing in on our conversation. We went way longer than I thought we were going to go. This is my thing that I want to just make I want to splice apart. Forgiveness is one thing, reconciliation is another. Forgiveness is good for you, the person who was offended. I should not carry around those burdens, so I should forgive for myself. But I am not required,
Yes.
right? I am not required to forgive or reconcile with anyone. And I can do one or the other or both. Okay, for sure. And that is the thing that I wanted to add to what you said, Blue. If I don't feel comfortable that you are going to be responsible with my boundaries going forward, I can never reconcile with you, but I can surely forgive you.
Yeah, there's an old saying about forgive. It doesn't require forgetting. In other words, you've learned something about that individual, and that will forever change how you deal with them. That has nothing to do with reconciliation. I mean, truly, I mean, between friends, if you have a fight, when you reconcile, hopefully you're back to this place that you were, and maybe even higher. I mean, I think we all have friends that our initial response to, and some of my best friends, my initial response to them as a human being was somewhat negative. I wasn't impressed, or I actually viewed them negatively. And then typically it came to some form of conflict. And then through that resolution, that reconciliation, we literally became
Closer.
like the best of friends. Oh, yes. And I've have several friends that we laugh because it's like, when I first met you, I did not like you. And yet they will be my friend for the rest of my life. My best buddy from Afghanistan, when we first met each other, we didn't like each other. We didn't trust each other. And it literally caused the conflict that we wound up getting into became the basis for a relationship, because the reconciliation became the basis. Does that make sense?
It makes a whole
So you
lot.
can, but it's not required.
It's
And I like the way that you said it. It's I forgive for myself. It's not required. But in order to actually bring a conflict from no conflict through conflict and back to no conflict, that you'll never get to quite that point if there is no reconciliation. So, legally, you don't have to forgive. Like, for instance, when society takes the retribution for you, you as an individual, you don't have to forgive. You don't have to forgive, except for yourself. It's not required. That's not part of the law. The part of the law is you do this against another person and society gives you this consequence. When that consequence is over, you're square with society, not necessarily that other person. That other person, then by offending them, by committing a crime against them, stealing from them, or battering them in some way, you give that person a burden to carry, because now they either find that forgiveness in their self and are able to release that from themselves, or they continue to carry it forward, which is that karma thing, right? So you put a burden on that person, and that's the part that society can't, that laws can't give us.
So I said this before. I want to highlight it again, and I'm going to give the mic over to Ogi. and reconciliation requires me to believe that you can be responsible with what you were irresponsible with before. You have to have my trust again. So somehow you mishandled something, okay? And then you apologize, I forgave you, fine. If we to reconcile means that I trust you enough to have repair with you,
Yeah.
to be whole with you again.
Yeah.
And
Agree.
sometimes that will happen, and sometimes it won't happen.
Right.
But I'm gonna. Oh, I forgot. I want to do this. There's a great question. I'm gonna give my answer is if Jada wasn't there, would do or do you guys think Will would have done the same thing? No, I do not. I do not think he would have done that if Jada was not there. Ogie.
I honestly think it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Because um we can't necessarily foresee someone's state of mind, right? Like it's all we have is basically what happened. So I would just say it to me it doesn't matter. It definitely doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
And sorry, and I think the reason why I feel comfortable saying that is in watching Jada's response to the joke when it was initially made, is that she basically kind of had this. I would say she shrugged it off in kind of like that joke's corny. There's a look you give somewhere you're like, yeah, I'm not really feeling that joke, and I think that was an appropriate response, right? So.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, to that question, it wouldn't matter.
Mm. Okay, good enough. Do you gentlemen have any closing words? Final thought?
No, I appreciate the conversation in general, and I'd say that you, the rest of the panelists, I just deeply impressed with the level of thought.
Yes, the level of thought was overwhelmingly delightful in a way that I want to hold on to. For sure, for sure. Ogie, do you have a final?
Yeah, just thanks for having me. And sorry for joining late. I listened in between while trying to take care of the baby, but I found the level of thought and insight pretty much super 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 fascinating. So thank you. And a final thought will be yes to forgiveness, yes to reconciliation, but if you can't reconcile, that's fine as long as you can forgive.
All right,
A
amazing.
quick question: Is it
Yes,
Ogie or OG?
It's
Set me straight.
it's Ogie.
Ogie. Okay.
Ogie.
Ogie.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So thank you for squaring me away. I appreciate that.
No worries. Thanks, Blue.
awesome. I am just incredibly thankful to have this platform and this opportunity to share my thoughts. Thank you, all the members of Loveland, for coming to hang out with me and add voice to this subject matter. We continue to take these journeys together. I cannot be more thankful and honored to be around the best energy on the planet. And that is with you guys. Until next time, bye bye for now.